Happy Monday, everybody. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. I am so happy that you are listening to us today. Thank you for tuning in every Monday. Today, I'm really excited because I'm going to talk to somebody uh, you know, who might make us feel a little younger, if that makes any sense. I'm going to kind of open it up that way. Celeste Walmsley is with us today. She's with Lisse Laser and Skin Studio. Welcome to the program. I'm so glad you're here, Celeste. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
It's absolutely my pleasure to have you. And, when I say that appears younger or feels younger, is that, as we get a little bit older, the reality is we look in the mirror and we don't always see what we want to see. And so I think that there's something to be said about taking a look at skin and how those, things can affect how improvements can be made, let's put it that way, to affect the way that we see ourselves in the mirror. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started and what it is that you do at your studio? And, let's have a conversation.
Sure. Um, excuse me. I have been a client of laser hair removal for over 20 years. I have a disease called polycystic ovary syndrome. I also have congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Both of them, they're just a lovely combo, really. So one makes me extra hairy, and the other one makes me lose my hair.
Oh my goodness.
One makes me lose the hair on my head, and then one makes me
Yeah.
extra hairy from the cheekbones down. So I've been a long-term client of laser hair removal.
Yeah.
And when the opportunity came up just under 3 years ago to buy one of the machines that I had been getting services for many, many years, it really, piqued my interest because I thought, you know what, now I can do my own laser in home, but
Yeah.
then I can help other people with this, like with these conditions. Obviously, there's other people that don't have my condition that want to get laser hair removal. And so that was sort of the main purpose, was I said to my husband, I said, if it doesn't work, at least I have in-home laser.
All right. I mean, there's something to be said for being able to look after it yourself.
Because
Yeah.
I was going to the mainland for mine.
Yeah.
I had a lady up there, so I would have to, and so COVID was a big shocker, about 4 years of not being able to go to get laser. So
Yeah.
when this machine kind of came up, I thought, well, like that's a great solution. It's in-house. So yeah, so I basically that was sort of the motivator. We had looked at one about 10 years ago when we just moved to the island, but I said I don't want to be working right like out of my home.
And now you are, right?
We are, for the reason that we used to have tenants. So
Right.
now we have the whole house to ourselves. So now it gives the room to have I have a side studio that's just being finished, being renovated, fingers crossed. And so I'll be expanding into that area, which is wonderful. So it's in home, but it's on the side of the home, which is private. So it's good.
Yeah. So no, you don't only do laser though. I understand you do some other things at your studio. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So the other service that I provide with the same machine, which is quite interesting, is skin rejuvenation.
Right.
So skin rejuvenation, basically, I can help people with spots, dots, and whatnots on their face.
Love it.
It's quite, yeah, quite precise, isn't it?
Yeah.
So basically, like if you have sun damage, the brown spots. So sun damage, liver spots, the age spots is what they call them, that type of thing. Any of the browns, I can fade freckles. All of those can be treated to fade them. And then I can also do rosacea, which is sort of a lot of people have the pinking on the cheeks or the nose, the chin, and a combination of blown capillaries. And blown capillaries are like the little tiny, tiny veins on our face that just basically they
Yeah.
blow out
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
basically spider on the face. So I can minimize those as well. And then it helps with fine lines and wrinkles and that type of thing in collagen production and to firm up the face. So it's what I appreciate for myself anyways, and for my approach is it's really natural looking. So I'm just enhancing what you already have.
Right.
I'm re-plumping up the face if you need it. And then same thing with the fine lines and wrinkles. It's just a smoothing out of the face, reducing the pores. It's really natural. So kind of bringing you back to when you were,
Yeah, a little younger and our skin was more youthful for sure. I think that when it we all come to a certain age when our face what we feel on the inside and what's reflected on the outside aren't always the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, I was curious because I had the great privilege of meeting you at the Women of Distinction, the WIN
Influence.
Awards, first of all,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Congratulations, by the way, for your nomination.
Thank you.
And that was a really wonderful event because it gave us an opportunity to really celebrate each other as women and the incredible things that we do in the business of our everyday lives. And so it
Hmm.
was very kind that you offered up to all of the women of influence an opportunity to get to know your services a little bit better and perhaps have a little bit of support, to really bring those two pieces together, right? That piece of our inner versus our outer at times, which can look a little different. And I know for myself that one of the things is that I find is that a lot of women are a little bit nervous about going in to have anything done. We've all heard the horror stories of Botox and things like that that have gone wrong. Tell us a little bit about your exploration with all these different things and really how you honed your skill in.
Oh, those are good questions. Basically, what I appreciate about the skin rejuvenation, it's non-invasive. So
Right.
it's like coming here for laser hair removal, sort of the same idea. The machine's really interesting. It just has different settings for different service, like different treatments. And so I find that women coming to get the services done, like you can leave and it looks like you got nothing done kind of thing. Like it's not very intrusive that way, but then
Hmm.
the results obviously happen. But I find that some of the other, services that like the Botox and things like that, where we're changing, we're injecting. I don't do any of that. And I appreciate that. And I don't necessarily want to ever get into that realm. I'd
Mhm.
rather just improve what you have and not alter what you have, if that makes sense. So that you
Oh,
come
yes.
out, it's simple and it's natural, and you're just basically being brought back to where you were. So,
So
um,
when you talk about the laser piece of it though, does it hurt I mean, laser, you think it'd be some kind of a burning sensation, right? Like,
right.
is that kind of what it feels like? What does it feel like?
Well, that's a good question. The machine that I have is called Intense Pulse Light. So
Okay.
it takes light energy and converts it into heat. And
Right.
so what I have found from my own experiences, in the past, I went and got laser done. It's quite painful. You have sort of like a wand area, and within that, with the laser machine, I found that it would target and kind of go do 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 for about
Yeah.
10 seconds, and it's quite intense because it feels like an elastic snap with each one.
Right.
My machine, it's intense pulse light. So it kind of does like a heat whoosh all in the area all at once. And if you have, so let's say for hair, you do feel like the tiny little snap for each hair, but all at once. So it's very minimal.
Mhm.
I also have, like, especially for hair removal, it's a 2 to 3 out of 10 discomfort is what it's effective that way. I don't need to crank it up. I don't need to, because I can burn your skin if I go too hot, right?
Right.
But with the
Right.
skin rejuvenation, most of the treatments are actually even more milder than hair removal. The veins aren't. The veins is a little bit warm, but again, it just does feel sort of like that little elastic piece all
Mhm.
at once in that little area. But because they're so tiny, the little veins usually that people have on their face, it's not hugely intense. Again, it dissipates really quickly. People don't usually require numbing. Nobody needs numbing for it.
Which
So
is great,
it
right?
is, yeah, because I've had a couple ladies. So how early do I need to put the numbing on? Like, you don't need to, because I've had it on my upper lip, and usually that's a really sensitive area for it. And I used to jump, like you'd zap it and I jump. And this one it's just more, the word, could I even use the word palpable? Like it
Mhm.
just, yeah,
Mhm.
it's more tolerable for sure. The head is very sensitive though.
I would imagine there's parts of your face, like I would imagine around your ears, I would imagine under the eyes, those kinds of areas would be super sensitive, but it's your head that's the
It's
most
your
sensitive.
head. Oh, I'm currently doing laser hair removal on my head. I
Right.
will say I have done laser hair removal, cheekbones down, whole body.
Right.
That takes the cake. So I
Oh,
think we just have so many nerve endings. My hair was quite dark.
right.
So where it was dark, but also along the seam, I think where the brain, like where the skull kind of
Hmm.
forms, I must have nerves or something there because man, is that sensitive. But
Wow.
again, the benefit of me having done it myself. I know what it feels like on other people.
Of course,
So
lived experience it goes miles and miles.
it does. And to
It,
be able to
you
do it again, like fresh, reminds me, right, that's what it feels like. That's,
right.
yeah.
So how often does somebody need to have, once they start laser, how often do they need to continue? Is it a one and done, or do you have to do it several times? Like, talk to a little about the process of how it works.
Sure. The average person needs about 6 to 8 sessions of this is for laser hair removal.
Yes.
Skin rejuvenation, it varies because I have to look at the condition of their skin and what we're tackling. So I won't really speak to that other than if I saw someone.
Sure.
But basically, laser hair removal is 6 to 8 treatments,
Mhm.
and they're about a month apart, so like 4 weeks apart. And the average person, once they get that done, they might need a maintenance maybe once a year after that. I have the hormonal dysfunctions, those two diseases that I spoke to at the start of the show.
Mm.
And so anybody with polycystic ovary syndrome, they call it PCOS or PCOS, they would end up being sort of a regular customer. But people with that disease kind of know. So I've always needed ongoing laser
Mhm.
per se. But I will say this, I had laser before COVID and I didn't get laser for about 4 or 5 years after that. And I was able to sustain with based on what I had done. It just grew in really, really fine, nothing close to what I was before. Because I mean, sadly enough, with PCOS, I had it sort of all over the face and on the neck, almost like a man.
Mhm.
I could grow pretty good. And now it's like I've got, a couple little hairs here and there. So, but the average person, again, they would need the 6 to 8, and then just a maintenance one, maybe once a year, maybe every couple years, just yeah.
I don't mean to be voyeuristic in any way. It's really important that we're here to share information. So, please forgive me if I'm not asking the right questions. It's not meant to be inappropriate. But when you were working for the laser on your head, in trying to do that, was your hair growing in, like, I don't know if it's called Appalachia, where it comes in chunks and pieces and that sort of thing, or was it just fine, fine baby hair that didn't all the way come through?
Sure. So alopecia is what you're talking about. I don't have alopecia. So alopecia, you're right. It like they lose hair in patches is
Right.
sort of thing. So they end up like with these little holes of like no hair. Mine is different because of my hormonal imbalance. I basically had male pattern baldness, which
Right.
is so feminine, so feminine.
Oh, feminine.
So it's been a challenge that way. And I only shaved my head in November. So I'm only about what, 6 months in of doing this. But basically I had male pattern baldness through the top. So right now you can see that it's like it looks like skin on, I think this side. You can you see darker hair?
I
I've had a few
can.
treatments, so yeah. Did you say you can?
I can.
Oh, okay, good.
Very little, but I sort of
Yeah.
get it. And
So
for our radio listeners who are not able to see, it looks a little bit like a shadow.
yeah, and it basically like if it's just I lost the hair on the crown of my head. So
Right.
if you picture a man who's bald on top with just the hair along the
Some
sides,
stuff on the side.
that's what
Yeah.
I looked like, which was gorgeous.
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 For many years I was getting a weave done. So
Right.
they would do a corn roll weave, which they would basically braid the hair in a corn, like a circular pattern on the head, and
Mhm.
then they would sew hair to that. And I did that for many years. Then COVID hit, and my lady was on the mainland, and I couldn't see her, so I
Yeah.
had to find another solution. So I found toppers, which were similar, where you clip. It's like a toupee for a female, but you clip it into your hair. And I just got really fancy and creative because I didn't have any hair to clip it. So I wore a headband thing. But I was able to match it to my lower, like my hair on the lower part of my head. And I just got tired of it. I thought I want to go out with my girlfriends. Now I got to figure out, is my hair dyed the right color? Is it placed right? Did I clip it right? Is it everything looking normal? Do I got really tired of it. I'm almost 50 and I just thought, you know what? I want to live authentically.
Yeah. I completely resonate with that. I think there comes a point when it's just too much work to do those things. And really, for our listeners who can't see you, you're a stunning woman, absolutely
Oh,
stunning. So
thank you.
I think it's incredible. I'm curious about, and because I don't want to take away from what it is we're talking about with the laser, but I'm also curious about, when did that start happening for you? Were you, did it happen as you were turning 50 or in your early 40s? When did all of a sudden that shift happen with the hair on your head?
I was gifted early on. So,
Early.
17 years old, I started losing my hair.
Yeah.
So, my graduation picture, I have this little half moon just at the edge of my hair that you can start to see, thinning. And just over time, I would then do the comb over bangs. And
Mhm.
at some point, I couldn't cover it up. So, I had been doing the toppers and the extensions for over 10 years.
Yeah, so that's a long time.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah. And I think I was wearing ball caps at some point. I started wigs, but they're too I get too twitchy in the
Well,
forehead.
in fairness, don't misunderstand, but a really good, authentic hair is not an inexpensive investment.
Oh.
It's
They're
up
like
there
$2,000.
at
And then
least.
you
Yeah.
got to replace them every year. You're not going to go swimming in that. Like that was another thing was just the freedom to go get dirty, go
Yeah.
get wet.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about like those things being dirty or wet. Also, just the thing flying off,
Yeah,
or
of course.
I'm just like, okay, I think I'm done. I'm done. So like just I I I also struggled with the thought, well, maybe I could grow it back. There's, all these magic things and all the things, and if I balance my hormones or if I rub my head with Rogaine or something, but I realized in the end, I wanted low maintenance. So even if I could, I'd have to take a supplement or something for the rest of my life. I'd
Yeah.
have to do the Rogaine thing. And how about if I don't know, move away or I can't afford it or something. And I just thought, what's the easiest thing is shave my head. So,
Yeah, and to do it in such a way where you can do it at home with your laser and be able to really understand how that's turning into a business for you. I mean, I would imagine that some of your clientele really may be going through some of the same things you're going through or have gone through, and I would imagine that as a result of that, there's a real trust there in how this laser can work in a positive way. For many of my girlfriends, it's that the menopause mustache. It's menopause, suddenly you're Tom Selleck and you're trying to, figure it out. Or that one or two, for me, it's the long gray hair that was not there yesterday and I woke up and it's 4 inches long today and I don't know where it came from.
right.
Tell me, I mean, a lot of women wax. Um, does laser remove it at the root, or does it work like wax where it's just kind of, taking that as close to the nth degree of your skin as possible?
What it actually is doing, it's damaging the hair follicle.
Okay.
Yeah. So, without going into too much technical stuff, but basically, our hair has a life cycle of being active, dormant, and dead. And
Okay.
so the dormant and dead ones they don't take effect while they're in those stages, but it's a 3 month cycle. So something that's dormant will then become active within 3 months. And so basically, the minimum that somebody would need is 3 months, like three opportunities, right? To get laser so that it has an opportunity to at least zap the follicle once, right?
Right.
Basically, that's why people need 6 to 8 because then the active ones are going dormant again and that type of thing, and we're trying to get them in that cycle. But basically, we're hitting them when they're down. So we're
Right.
damaging it so that at some point it just goes, I can't grow, I'm too damaged. So
Right.
yeah, so it's the energy and the heat that is basically, damaging the hair follicle.
So now I know that for some people, the pores that they have are quite coarse. They're quite large. How does laser work when it comes to the larger pores versus the smaller pores, or is there any difference when it comes to the actual support of the laser?
So are you talking about like sort of the width or the thickness of the hair?
Yes, the width, like,
Oh,
because some people have, like, my hair is super, super thin. Like, I have a
yeah,
lot of it, but it's
yeah,
really, really thin.
yeah.
Whereas my friend has quite a bit less hair than I do, but it's quite a bit heavier.
Okay. The difference is the way the machine is set. Basically, the thicker the hair, the
Mhm.
more heat it can take. So it's like putting something black in the sun.
Right.
It takes more heat. So basically, the machine is just adjusted. So basically there's a starting range, like a safe range to laser someone.
Mhm.
And basically I would start the same for both of you, and you might not feel anything. She might.
Right.
But then I get to the 2, 3 out of 10, and then I stop and we do the treatment at that level. So yours, you might be like, no, I still don't feel it, or it's very mild. Then I can increase it for you. So
Mhm.
there's that. It's customizable in that regard, is that I just go, how did that feel? If the
Right.
person's like, that was a 5, then I lower it kind of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I understand. In our community, we have a lot of LGBTQ two-spirit and trans friends. I'm curious, have you had the experience of working with trans people, and how comfortable is it for them? Because I know that for many people, again, I'm not trying to go voyeuristic, but try to understand. I have a person in my life I love very much who is trans. She has gone through considerable laser therapy and is still going through, final touches. And it's miraculous what it has happened for her self-esteem. I'm curious about that experience for you working with the LGBTQ two-spirit community.
I really encourage them to come to my studio. It's stated on my website. I have a no judgment space. So that's one thing, is I want them to know it's a safe space. I currently have 2 trans women that I'm treating. And I have to say, without getting emotional, my goodness,
Yeah, yeah.
ooh, okay, take a breath.
No, it's okay. It's a great breath. I mean, it is a huge life-altering thing for people to come into their authenticity. It's huge.
And I absolutely adore being on that journey with them. I
Yeah,
feel very, very privileged. And
yeah.
I think that's where sort of my excitement is that they're allowing me on their journey.
Hmm.
And then I know I can transform, like with the laser hair removal. Like I know, and I can understand to a point, okay, how it feels to have facial hair when you don't want it.
Right.
And it's really it really conflicts, well, how I was feeling, to feel feminine and to feel beautiful. And
Hmm.
it's the same reason why I've lasered my head, is because I have that crown of the dark hair, and it was making it look like I have male pattern baldness, even without, like, no hair, like it was shaved. And
Hmm.
so my whole thing is I just want it to look skin color. So I still am being challenged with something that feels more masculine on a feminine body. So I I feel at my core that I can understand to an extent how what they're going through. Um, but the transformations, I'm so excited. And like they're so excited. Like because it just, with before they saw me, I could see them covering up. It's really hard to cover up.
Yeah.
And the next few pictures, like after they've seen me, it's softening, and it's just taking that barrier away, which I just absolutely love. One thing that I'm working on, and I've got a couple companies that are coming on board, is I have a grant program that I'm offering to trans women. And I have what I've been able to do out of my own pocket right now is I'm able to offer them a free session when they buy a 3-pack for their face. I want them to be able to come in and at least get the first one for free. And then every other body part area that they're going to do, I
Mhm.
have a discount of $100 that I can offer them. So that's what I've been able to do sort of myself, to keep the business going, but to help them. But what I'm in the process of forming is I'm calling it T Cash. So T dash cash, T cash, transformation cash.
Got it.
So basically, I'm looking for other businesses that are LGBTQ 2+ supporters and would like to donate to form a grant so that I can offer free laser to a trans woman that cannot afford it, but that really needs it. And that would probably cover up to the 8 treatments for face and neck.
Hmm.
And so that's really what I'm looking to start and to form, so that we can then find someone who needs that help. It's so expensive that what they have to go through, name changes and all the alterations and all the things they have to do, that I know everything else can kind of be covered up, but your face can't.
That's right. And
So
I agree with you. I think there's something to be said in being able to offer a grant support. You're right. As far as a lot of people are concerned, things are so expensive to get this really essential work done to sort of help, bring that congruity in, right? That my outside matches some more of my inside.
Yeah.
And I know that for the person that is in my life, that journey has been so powerful and so uplifting. I watched this person truly go from having very, very angry, very frustrated, very beat down, to coming into their own and is absolutely the light when she walks into a room because she's able to show up who she really is. So thank you for that. I mean, I think you might not have been her person, but knowing that your services can make that happen for a person is just such an incredible gift to our community. So thank you.
I'm glad.
I'm curious about, your own journey with the facial hair piece because I know we were talking a little bit earlier about, that menopause mustache. But for a woman to grow a bit of a beard, right? Like more of a how was that for you from a mental health perspective? Did you find it really, really challenging to sort of just show up yourself? And do you take that challenge with you in the work that you do every day?
Mm. It was years ago, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah,
But I had um, done, I thought I had scarred my skin, but
right.
it's pigmentation. So basically, when it gets darker from tweezing. So I
Mm,
had, like like it was constant here and there.
mhm.
And I have, I've tried to look for some pictures, but I have older pictures. You can see that I'm trying to cover it up, but you can see I'm not.
Right.
And it made my face rough. So for dating, it was a don't touch the face. I wouldn't let anybody touch my face when they kissed me or anything because it could potentially be rough. 5 o'clock
Right.
shadow kind of thing if I was shaving. So that was interesting because it obviously formed a barrier for me with like or intimate relationships, like a boyfriend or whatever, that type of thing, right? And and I know in society, like I know going out, like I made sure I had cover up and I was all done up because I didn't want anybody to see it. And I would have been mortified if somebody, said, "Oh, I can help you with that."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I think someone did say that in my past. And it's embarrassing because I'm trying to cover it up. So I will never, ever do that to someone else. I wait till they come to me. I wait till I may have a conversation and speak about my situation. And if they speak up, great. If they don't, I leave it because either they're comfortable with it, because we all have our own comfort levels. Some people are fine with their facial hair, and other ones they're just not ready, or when they're ready, they'll tell me. So taking that, into my business and how I serve my clients, I am extremely sensitive with the insecurities that come with anything, facial hair, blemishes, veins on their face. I have a lot of compassion for my clients because I understand the embarrassment and wanting to hide.
Yeah.
I think that's what I was tired of as well with my head. It was just I was hiding. I didn't feel authentic. That was what was conflicting with me is I just wanted to be me. Well, this is how I was made. I know I want to fit into society and have hair on my head, but really this is how I was made. So I just want people to feel comfortable how they were made. They were not made with the veins all over their face. They were not made with the spots. They were not made, with potentially the sagging skin and that type of thing. We weren't made that way. So I appreciate being able to kind of bring them back to where they feel their best without altering them. I'm not altering. I'm just cleaning the slate. Just want you to have a clean slate. So
I completely understand what you're saying, and I think that it's really important that as I ask these questions, part of it is because I know that there are people that are really afraid right now. Like they just, they don't people we are a very vain society, and people, have a hard time with fingers being pointed at them, and especially younger people, right? As we get older, we grow into ourselves, and so it's a little bit different. It's not, it's there's still stuff that goes with that for certain. But when we're younger and we're coming up, into things and we're seeing changes in our hairline, our facial line, our, scars, things like that that are happening, like how when we're wanting to bring our best selves and you put that with, so much insecurity that may go with that by nature, right? And to be able to come to someone like yourself who not only have lived experience, but you're not trying to change something in them. You're actually trying to enhance what it is that's already there that just needs a little bit of support. So, if someone calls you and says, "Look, I'm really nervous about this," can you tell me, like, what can people expect when they contact Lisse Laser Skin Studio?
Um, I offer a free consultation, so people can
Okay,
come in, they can talk to me, I can see if they're a candidate, I can answer all their questions, they can look at the machine type thing. But basically, if they were coming and they were booking an appointment with me, is there's always a consultation at the start. There's a medical history because I need to make sure that you're safe, like it's safe
sure.
for you to
Yeah.
have the laser done.
Mhm.
And then just your concerns, because some people, again, yeah, if they have never had laser, they're thinking pew pew, right? Like in pain
Exactly.
and oh my goodness, this is gonna be horrible. I had one client come in with a mouth guard
Yeah.
because she had had laser and she said it was really painful, but she was ready because she really wanted the spots to go away.
Yeah.
And so when I did the first shot, it was so cute. She just kind of went, is that it? And I said, yeah. And she took it out. She was like, oh, that's so much better. So,
Yeah.
it's but putting them at ease, answering all their questions, because I'm a question person. So if they're not all answered, I'll go find the answer. It might not be the right one kind of thing. So I really am thorough at answering all my clients' questions.
Mhm.
And I
Very
don't push for
important.
sales. Like it's up to the client, it's up to what they want. I've had a few go, oh, just tell me what I need to do. And I'm like, no, what do you want? Like,
Mhm.
what are you coming here for? That's what we'll do. Because I know I've been places where they're like, oh, well, we could do this, that, and this, and then, $700 later. And I think, oh, no, I just came in for this spot,
Right?
right? So I do respect that when someone comes in that, like, what do you want done? And we'll work on that. Like, and in conversation as we're having, so one thing
Right.
that I
Yeah.
find is it allows for the conversations.
Yeah.
People will tell me, and then if they ask or if they're asking for something else, then I'll tell them, yeah, the machine can do this or that. Like I do inform them of what everything can be done, but I don't push. I don't like being pushed either. So
No, and I think that, like you said earlier in the hour, things happen on time, right? Like we come or people come when they're ready, and once they kind of get through that barrier. But having those questions answered becomes really important. And what I want to talk about next is a little bit, uh, I'm trying to form my question. So before I form my question, I'm actually just going to take a really quick station identification because really I'm so fascinated by this conversation. The time is going by already so quickly. If you have just tuned in to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM, thank you for doing so. We are always delighted that you join us. We're also really happy when you tune into iHeartRadio, Spotify, and YouTube to sort of see what you miss. And I'm believe me, after you've had, if you've been driving down the road today and you've been thinking to yourself, oh, I want to get to know Celeste a little bit. I want to find out more about what she does in her organization. You can do that by checking out the YouTube channel for sure. And really, I'm also excited because this is the beginning of the holidays, the summertime when people are getting out there and they're doing wonderful things. And I gotta tell you, I was one of those people that did a fair amount of sun damage to my skin because it didn't take care of it when I was supposed to. And so if you've just tuned in, I'm hoping that you'll have a moment to really pay attention to how am I looking after this vessel? How am I looking after myself, my physical health, my face, my skin. And if you're not looking after it the way you should, perhaps you need to go and see my friend. In the meantime, thanks again for tuning in. Celeste Walmsley is in my Zoom booth. We're with Lisse Laser and Skin Studio. I'm going to say that 5 times fast. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to say that 5 times fast. So welcome back to the program. Celeste, I really am grateful that you're here. And in the moment, I sort of talked about skin damage because come from a time when baby oil was, the sunscreen of the day. We know that that's really dumb. Now we've learned, SPF 7,000 is kind of where we're at this point. When we talk about skin damage like that, I'm curious, how does laser help that or does it?
It does actually, which is lovely. So, a lot of times I have clients that do their sun thing in the summer and then they come and see me in September and I clean it all up. So, it's kind of, so for the ones that are like, I'm kind of in that mode that I still want sun, I still want to get out there.
Yeah.
Basically, what it is the pigmentation, like the brown spots are pigment that's like sort of on the skin, right? We have 3 layers of skin, and those pigments are either in the first or second layer. And so, and that's why when you have sun damage from the past
Mhm.
that show up and you're like, I haven't been in the sun for years. Like I've been taking care of myself. Why
Yes.
am I seeing these now? They were in the second layer, and as we age, the top layer gets thinner and they start to
Right.
show up.
Right.
Because I
That's
wondered that too. I was like, what
perfect.
is going on? How are people doing this? So the laser basically what it does is it targets the pigmentation, so the dark spots.
Mhm.
It coagulates them. And if it's on the top, it'll crust off a little bit. It'll look like coffee grains and
Mhm.
it'll just flake off and the spot will be substantially faded. If it's in the second layer, so the second layer down, it does the same thing. It coagulates under the skin, but it gets absorbed by your lymphatic system. So it's a little bit slower than the crusting, but it's doing the same thing. So it's basically cauterizing it and shifting it off out of the
So
body.
it comes out of the body in our usual ways then. It comes out through sweat or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So what about skin cancer? Because, there's a lot of people, dear friends of mine, we've got moles at this age that we didn't have before. How
Mhm.
does laser help that, or does it? Is that a totally different treatment, a combination of that and treatment? What might that look like?
So no, I do not help with removal of anything
Okay,
or like cancer or like moles that hang or anything like that. There's nothing intrusive. But if I do see something that looks suspect, I will recommend them to go see their doctor or dermatologist. Yeah,
great.
definitely. So we do ask in the medical history just about moles, if they do get them regularly checked out. Do you have
Hmm.
any weird looking ones? That kind of thing. But if I do see something that looks suspicious, I definitely refer my clients. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said. You know what you're looking for as you're looking at the different pieces, right? So it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But now, as we say this, because we're talking about, doing a little bit of a medical intake, is any of this covered I know it wouldn't cover probably under BC Med, but do you take insurance for people that have it?
No, so I don't think this is a covered service. Now, there are opportunities for transgendered people when they're getting, there is, and I'm going to look into that, but they get
Yeah,
coverage for the genital area if they're having surgery, because then they
right.
don't want the hair growing when things have been changed. So
Of
that's the
course.
only coverage that I know of, and that's actually paid for as far as I know. But that's
Okay.
the only thing, yeah.
Yeah, I know that there are some fine lines of what will be covered and will not, and I do realize that skin laser is often cosmetic,
Mhm.
and therefore it's usually not covered, but you never know, so it's always worth the ask to find out if it's something that's put on individuals' medical profiles. Um, and so as you have kind of explored this work, partially for yourself, because you started off looking after you, right? It's turned into a business. What have you learned from the business so far, from the other side of the lens?
Ooh. Other than like being self-employed?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think just, the opportunity that I get that I think is one of the blessings that I, didn't really think of initially, that I actually get the opportunity to really get to know my clients.
Hmm.
So if you're not chatty, I mean, I can respect that somebody doesn't want to chat, but it tends to be just a natural chit chat while I'm
Or
doing the services. And That's been a real blessing because I love getting to know people. I'm not a surfacey person. So if you're like, how's the sun? How's the day? Kind of, I get a little bit bored. But what I find with my clients is that I get to know them. So, and I'm curious, so I ask questions if they're open, and I find that possibly that makes the service even more pleasant for them. Like, wow, this person's interested in me, but I am genuinely interested, not just for the
Mhm.
services, but I want to know how you live, what makes you happy, what. So I think that's a really cool bonus for me on the
Mm.
side of this is that aspect. The other side of me, I love decluttering. I have an interior decorating background. Like I love transforming spaces so that I'm transforming people's faces, and I love it because I get really excited when we see the changes, and I have usually before and afters, and I show them, but I'm probably more excited than the client.
Well, yeah. I mean, in fairness, because you've watched the whole thing from beginning to end, and if you've seen somebody for a few weeks, right? Some, as you said, sometimes it takes a little bit, it's not a one-off necessarily,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. For even
right?
skin rejuvenation, it's minimum 3 to 4 usually for any sort of condition. So
Yeah.
I'm seeing them over 3, 4 months. So that's good. Yeah.
So you're watching that transition happen. You're seeing the change from when they come in from month to month to month, right? And yeah. What would you say has been one of your biggest learnings from actually, the speed for which you're doing this work, right? Because I would imagine, like, when you first see it, are you looking at it going, oh, I can take care of all of that right now? Or, maybe we'll start with, I remember, and the reason I asked this is because a dear friend of mine many, many years ago, he had a fabulous beard, but from his cheekbone until nearly right underneath his eye, right, like very, very close up, he had hair that was going straight up, and it was really, really coarse, and it bothered him so much. So he was like, "I this has to go." So he would go in for laser. Now at
Mm.
that time, we're talking 40 years ago, so we're talking a very I'm sure that this is probably the wrong word, but when I remember the way he was about it, it felt like a very violent intrusion to his skin, right? That the lasers were hot and powerful. And he had to go in for several times in order to take, places. But it was always like, half an inch or an inch, maybe two, like it was never the whole thing all at once. He was going
Oh,
in so regularly, regularly.
yeah.
So my question going back to the timeline, how did you master that skill of knowing just when enough was enough?
Enough, like laser or,
Laser, yeah.
oh, well, luckily with laser hair removal, it tells you the hair just doesn't
Oh,
grow anymore. It's great. And yeah. So,
so once you start actually using the wand or whatever it is,
yeah. So
okay,
basically, yeah. So over, let's say someone needs 8 treatments.
right.
Usually, we start to see a slowdown in the speed of the hair. We start to see a reduction in how much hair is there, and the hair starts to thin, and it just progressively gets less and less and less and less and less. So realistically, we get to a point where we go, okay, it's taking 8 weeks to grow, or nothing's really growing. Then that's when we stop, kind of thing. So it tells us it's lovely.
I think I get it. I think that my question, though, was more along those early stages, right? Again, I'm going back from a very long time ago
Yeah.
when he would not be able to go in and have a full treatment, one full treatment, and yeah, and
Oh,
go through the cycle we've been talking about. So, we've been talking about the cycle, how there's basically the three cycles of that
yeah.
hair and how that works. Well,
Yeah.
in his case, he would go in and they could only literally do like an inch of his skin at a time.
Oh, that's painful.
And it
Okay.
was very, very painful.
Yeah.
So for him, obviously, it's antiquated systems. It's a long, long time ago. But
Yeah.
but for our listeners who might be in, my age bracket, and they need to have something done, they might be still remembering that. It's like the old days with a tattoo, right? In the old days, if you got a tattoo, it was for life because if you had to have it lasered off, it was worse than having the tattoo done in the first place and
Yeah.
scarred horrifically.
Mm.
So, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm curious, is I'm looking back on how people may have thought about it once before and how we've come alongside so well to find equipment that is much, much less painful.
Yes. Yeah. So definitely. I mean, just for example, I have one client, a male. I do his whole body in one shot.
Okay.
So it's manageable and tolerable that you can, and I think that ends up being like a 5 hour session. It's pretty long. He's a tall man, but So it's tolerable again because the level of pain or discomfort, I'm going to say, is a 2 or 3 out of 10. So again, it only needs to be that. And so what happens is each session you come in, I usually increase the heat for
Hmm.
the laser, but
Hmm.
it still feels like a 2, 3
Right.
because the hair's gotten finer, it's thinner itself, or there's less hair. So we end up increasing to get results, but the pain threshold is still the same around 2 or 3. So it's nice. We end up getting to the maximum heat, range, but we're still at a 2 or 3. So I think that's sort of the progressive change is that it's not intolerable and it's
Right.
actually manageable. So I'm able to do ladies and men's legs, full legs, like no problem, all their backs. I do everything. So there are some laser studios that do not do men's genitals. I do everything. There's no judgment. Every man's got one.
Yeah,
Every
exactly.
woman, right?
I
So
like
I
I
don't
like to
I
say
don't
that
have an
about
issue.
boobs, right? As far as women are concerned, it's like you've seen one, you've seen them all. Some are big,
Yeah,
some are small. It's the same
exactly.
thing with all the rest of that.
Yeah.
But I am curious about the like full body hair, right? Because I know that there are quite a number of men who have
Mhm.
considerable back hair, and that's really problematic for them. They're very uncomfortable with that, and the process is the same. Yes,
Hmm. And actually, because so not to give too much information, but I've actually had to have my back done. I don't have as much hair as a man, but I still had to get my back done.
sure.
And to be honest, the back actually feels like a little massage. Like it's still you still get the
Oh,
zappies, but you get the warmth. So it feels like kind of like a really, like I actually feel like it's probably my favorite area to get done because it actually feels a little comfortable, like just a bit of warmth, if that makes sense. I know it's kind of
interesting.
a weird description, but it's the only part of my body I was like, oh. Yeah, because I don't think we have as many nerves, and it's a tougher skin, and yeah, so
Yeah,
I
no,
actually
I
find
agree
it.
with you. I think it's the toughest skin. I know if I get burned on my back versus getting burned on my neck or my chest,
Yeah,
day from the pain tolerance as far as that goes. So it certainly does make sense that would be that way for laser.
yeah.
Most painful, if there's going to be a part on your body for you, you've mentioned the top of your head, but for those that wouldn't have that experience, what would be the second top one?
Probably the genitals, but they're just more sensitive,
Sure.
and some of us have different colors. So we end up being darker lower. So I usually have to lower the heat in that area.
Right.
Um, but it's not painful. It's just more sensitive. And throughout the years, I have learned techniques now that I know where the nerves are. And so that I'm able to sort of I piggyback beside them instead of going across them. And so there's no hurt. I just think the most sensitive would probably be in that area.
Yeah.
And I have some people that are like scared, but it doesn't hurt. It's just maybe a little bit more sensitive. But honestly, there's the rest of the body, like again, it's a 2 or 3. So um,
So
but
it's all very tolerable. So the next question that I have for you is in regard to we were talking about the liver spots and the different tones of skin that changes. You
yes.
know, for somebody who's considering having laser done on their arms or parts of their body where there's that solid discoloration, for example, I tan very well. However, get an incredible um, pattern on my right arm and on my right leg. It's been that way for years.
Oh,
Doctor told me it was like when I tan on that side, it literally you can see the difference in the pigmentation in the skin. And
interesting.
so when I think about the darker skin versus the lighter skin, you were suggesting that if it's darker, it might be more painful. Is that true for all of your skin?
Yeah, so basically what the machine is attracted to on most of the conditions that we're working on is pigment.
Right.
So if your skin is pigmented, is darker, it's going to be attracted to that. So there's a couple things that I'll just go over. So for laser hair removal, I can treat all the way up like to different skin tones, all the way up to black. Because
Okay.
traditionally, our own body hair is darker than our skin.
True.
So
Yeah.
the machine then, for someone who has black skin or dark skin, the machine is programmed to bypass the skin and go right to the follicle. So what happens is if I work on somebody who is in the like the really fair skin category
Mhm.
and they get tanned, it's still going to treat and be focusing on like it's not going to bypass the skin because it's programmed that the skin is fair and just to go to the darkest thing first, which would have been the follicle. But when you're tanned, it'll go to your tan skin.
Right.
So there are a few things that I can do is that I can then treat you like a darker skin tone person. So it bypasses your tan skin and goes deeper. But there's a little bit of like during the summertime, like if you're going to tan, there's certain, well, and that's the thing. If you tan, you might tan darker or the equivalent to your hair color.
Right.
But then it's
Interesting.
not effective at the time, and that's fair. Like I totally understand that. So with your skin changing like it did, or it does in the summer, you may not be a candidate for hair removal during the summer because you're tanned darker than your hair, or the mix. Because then I'd have to, and especially if it's like a swirl, like you said, like it's all over.
Yeah, it's all over. It's the
Yeah,
weirdest thing. It's a strange swirly thing. And it doesn't hurt, it doesn't whatever, but when I get really dark, which I love to be really dark in the summertime,
yeah,
I can't do it as much as I used to, obviously. As you get older, all those fine lines start looking pretty cracked up if you get out there and do too much of that. So you have to be careful. But I still notice on my skin, on my leg and my right side of my body, it's almost as if you had taken a line and put it right down from the tip of my head right down
yeah.
between my body. The right side has all these patches and the left side doesn't have a one. It's weird. It's
I
really
just picture, you know how they drizzle like a sauce on like a donut? I feel
exactly.
like the one side they just went, here's the melanin on that side, and then we'll rub it on the other.
That's exactly what happened. I think I got into a very strange lineup in heaven. God knows what was going on, but whatever it was, yeah,
Right? They
it's a good
mixed you
thing.
up with it. One
Listen,
thing I
I've
will
had,
say, oh,
go
sorry.
ahead, please,
I was
please.
going to say one thing I will say is that the laser that I do, the laser hair removal, only works on dark hair up to sort of dirty blonde, like a sandy brown. Um, and I can even do a red, like a redhead, but it needs to be in that burgundy family, not the strawberry blonde. So
Right.
currently I can do those. In 2026, though, I'm excited. I'm looking at purchasing a machine that can do white, gray, and blonde.
Wow,
So
interesting.
yeah, so I just have to save up and that type of thing, or think I have arrangements for 2026 to purchase one. So that's really important. I'm in a retirement community. Especially sometimes when you get the mustache, the menopause mustache, it comes with the whites as well.
It does
And
so.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
but so currently I can do the dark hair to the light brown or dark blonde. But
wonderful.
future, yeah.
Well, it's been such a treat having you on the show today. I've had such a good time. We've only got a few minutes left. And so one of the first things I want to do before we stop today is how do people find you? How do people reach you and book an appointment?
Perfect. So they can go to my website, which is lisseqb.ca. So it's LISSE for Qualicum Beach.ca. And for anybody who wants to know, Lisse means smooth in
Oh,
French. My
oh, I
background
love it.
is French. And so I thought smooth lace or smooth laser and skin studio, right? So lisseqb.ca. You can find me on Facebook as well, just under Lisse QB. And basically, if you go to the website, you can text. I'm open to texting, phone calls, and emails and that type of thing. Whatever way you need to reach me, I will reach back that way. I currently got diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, and I find texting quite comfortable. Where sometimes with phone calls, I can feel I'm fine with answering calls from clients. So this is just like on a personal level. I
Yeah.
do sometimes feel cornered or I just don't feel like I want to have a talk, but I will have a text or I'll have an email. So I meet people where they are.
You're such an inspirational person. I have truly enjoyed talking to you, and I know our listeners have gleaned a lot more than they ever thought they would when it comes to figuring out how to deal with, just skin pigmentations or laser in any way, youthfulness, all of that. If you could imbibe on our listeners one thing is a bit of a takeaway for you, a bit of a reason, to come ahead and do this stuff, what might that look like for you?
We all have one body, so treat it like it's the most precious thing you own.
Yeah.
So if you need to upgrade, if you need to just kind of sand away the rust, sand away or take away things that just are impeding you to feel as beautiful as you are, because you really are. These are just spots and dots that are kind of, muddling up. the look or hair, just come and see me because we have one life, we have one body, and if there's an opportunity to reverse or change something and you can afford it, it's available, then why not do it?
Absolutely. I think there's something to be said about being as authentic as you can, and that means living your best life. Thank you so much for being on Act 3 today. It's been an absolute treasure to have you. Once again, if people want to reach you, they can find you at lisseqb.ca, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Wonderful. Celeste Walmsley has been, thank you. It's been a privilege having you. Hey, everybody. I don't know where the time went, but you and I are done for the day. I hope that you have a spectacular Monday. We definitely will see you next time on Act 3.